Here now for a reaction, Ambassador Stuart Holliday, former U.S. Ambassador for Special Political Affairs at the United Nations. Ambassador, we're just looking at pictures there of this guy, Amri, the suspect. I mean, if I was a European, you think of this. He spent 4 years in Italy for allegedly burning down a school. He then came to Germany in July of 2015. He was denied the right to asylum, but they couldn't kick him out. He was on something, granted a Duldung, which is a toleration papers. That's the closest English translation. It allowed him to stay in Germany despite his history. If I was a European, particularly German, I'd say these, what's happening with authorities? They're a bunch of clowns.
I think if you look at the German people who see 900,000 refugees that have been taken in under Chancellor Merkel in the last year or two, you can understand the concern. And this guy was from, southern Tunisia, where there are a lot of ISIS recruits, and you wonder how a guy like this not only could cross into Germany from Italy, but apparently they had him on the screen. They were waiting for him to get a passport so he could be sent back, which was ironic.
Well, this is more than frustration. I would just be furious if I was European. And you wonder why there are all these changes in Europe from the old order to something different. This is why. People look at the authorities and say that maybe open borders was a good thing 20, 30 years ago, or it sounded nice, but it doesn't work anymore, and yet the authorities don't seem to acknowledge it.
Well, the Chancellor has an election coming up. You've seen what's happened in Britain and in France now with the far-right parties coming to the fore. There is a far-right party in Germany that's making this an issue. She's still relatively popular, over 50%, but there's a lot of frustration there, and they could take it out on her in the upcoming elections.
The final insult, and it's not only Germany, by the way. Remember, one of the Paris terrorists was walking in plain sight in Belgium. Authorities didn't know about it for weeks afterwards. So there have been mistakes all over Europe, similar to the ones that were apparently made in Germany. But the added insult is that the authorities are actually paying these terrorists money in terms of welfare. We've got a list of some of the terrorists that were involved in the Parisian attacks. They got over $50,000 in welfare spending. So not only, this is like insult to injury.
All over Europe, this generosity and spirit of kindness has been rewarded by, violence, unfortunately by a few, but the risk is significant, especially with these low-tech attacks, whether it's assault weapons, trucks, and I'm afraid we're going to see more of this if there doesn't get a more serious approach by the Europeans to this problem.
Well, don't you think the time has come where Europeans say, out of here. You folks are out. You haven't handled it from a law enforcement point of view, and you certainly haven't handled it from a social point of view.
Absolutely. Then there's also the question of this whole balance of privacy. I mean, you remember the whole NSA issue, and they have a preference for sort of looking at this thing as that can be managed by, non-intrusive methods. This needs to be a full frontal assault on this, terrible stain, which is facing Europe.
Ambassador Stuart Holliday, good to see you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Lauren.